So it's Hjalmar Winbladh, who is the co-founder and CEO of Wrapp. Hjalmar is an acclaimed serial entrepreneur. He founded his first company called Sendit in 1994. It was later sold to Microsoft. He also founded a company called Rebtel and is now leading Wrapp. And also we have Andreas Ehn, who is also the co-founder and the CTO of Wrapp. Andreas was previously the first CTO of Spotify. And you've also worked with the Stardoll. So you will now talk a little bit about starting up Wrapp now and in this kind of climate. Okay?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot for having us here.
Vi kanske går fram lite så att blir bra i ljuset här.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Are you going to stand up? Yeah.
I don't know.
I was flying in from New York this morning, so I'm
you want to have
Washington,
a seat?
so I'm going to sit.
I'm
the old guy as well. So. So first of all, thanks a lot for having us here. I really enjoy talking to people that are considering or have started a company. And I can just give a short story of why I became an entrepreneur, because I was actually at an event like this. And before the event, I had no idea about entrepreneurship. I was like everyone back in end of the 80s that I should be a banker. I was studying finance, and actually was one of those places where you go where you have to actually enroll for one of the kind of what's called jobbvägledning eller karriärsvägledning.
Yeah.
And I was late as usual, and the only one that was open was actually an entrepreneur that was late, so I was able to get in there to not get it tardy. And yeah, that's the way it started. So I really enjoy being, in front of people that are starting companies and considering being an entrepreneur.
Can we get some help with the slides? It seems like it's not really working. Going back.
It's only going forward. Sorry for that. So Eric has to take you back.
Can we kind of start over? So whatever button you press, you move forward one slide, is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So Eric, could we restart?
Right.
That's a good way to make sure that we're not running over, huh?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see then.
No, please, this is the last time to ask questions, so kind of bombard us now, and I will feed it forward.
We're gonna kind of quickly go through a couple of slides just to give a little bit of background on what's been happening at Wrapp, because it's been about a year, and it's been quite a ride. And then we wanna go through this quite quickly so we can open up for questions and kind of have more of a dialogue. So everything around Wrapp got started back in February 2011 when Hjalmar and I had been working together on a couple of other projects and for EQT and on another startup that you were involved in. But we met up with a guy called Agge Rerslev, who's also been in the kind of ecosystem around startups for a long while in Stockholm, and he was doing a company around digital coupon distribution, and he wanted to talk about this. So the three of us sat down and talked about this space, which we liked ways to bring, and I just see that there's a mistake on the slide. We liked kind of ways to use online marketing for offline, so online to offline marketing, it should say, in order to generate foot traffic for bricks and mortars, because even though e-commerce is growing immensely and at some point might take over, 90% of retail commerce is still happening offline. And they don't have the kind of performance-based customer acquisition, lead generation tools that we're so used to for e-commerce. So we thought there was a huge opportunity there in order to bring something like this for bricks and mortar retailers in a performance-based way.
So what we did, it was that we saw a space that needed a solution, and we actually discussed this with some friends of ours that came out from the retailing business, and both me and Andreas likes new technology and really looking at new technology, see what new technology can do for a different business. And that's kind of way, the way I look at startups, and Andreas and I had this discussion. So what we did, actually, and this maybe is a very unorthodox way to do it, is that we kind of got very excited about the opportunity to support in the US the $4,000 billion consumer retail business with new solutions, but we didn't have that solution yet. So we said, the space is super interesting, and why don't just put a team together and start working on this and actually start experimenting around this. So we were able to, through our network, to put a great team together and actually having a very vague idea of what we would like to do. But with some very, very influential friends that are very networked as well, we were able to kind of test this and actually creating a framework and tighten that framework into actually later on became the Wrapp idea.
So we wrote in some people. Magnus Hult, who is now the VP Engineering of Wrapp. He was the first software engineer that I hired for Spotify back in 2006 during the summer. Someone I know very well, as well as pretty much consuming an entire company that was run by some friends of ours called Barefoot Hackers. They were an iPhone development agency run by Leo and Joachim, who's here today, and a third guy, Nick. So they kind of came in and became our mobile team. So quite quickly we were able to get working on the product, but we still hadn't quite figured out what the product was going to be.
So what happened there as well was that a good friend of mine and the former chairman of Rebtel, who kind of forced me to become the chairman when I left the CEO role there, Johan Brenner just told us, since you have a great team together, you have a great framework for what you would like to do, and you're very passionate to find the details there, why don't I just put in some money in here and let you run with that and actually make sure that you have the opportunity to experiment for a while in terms of what you would like exactly to do. And throughout this process as well, we talked a lot with Fabian Månsson, who was the former CEO of H&M, and really kind of tightened this idea a little bit. And we had the luxury from my earlier startup to know Reid Hoffman in Silicon Valley. So we actually went over twice and had workshops with him about what is the most important part and what kind of... So we were able to tighten the circles about the essence of what later on became Wrapp.
So still, we had ideas in the space, but it was more around something which would have been kind of a very local, very immediate, so more like your local coffee shop sending out deals to you as you walk by, that kind of thing. We didn't really like the ideas, and neither did our investors, but they did like the team. So we kind of got the money and instructions to go up with something better. So, to use an overused term, we kind of pivoted before we even got started with the real company. And we ended up with what became Wrapp.
So I think, when we had this very interesting meeting with Reid Hoffman when we talked about the mega trends right now, of course, around the social graph and the smartphone platforms. And he is a board observer at Groupon, and he's done another, investment in the couponing space and in driving traffic into the store. So he's very engaged in the whole kind of issue for big brick and mortars and the consumer retail issues, how they can tap into more efficient ways to drive sales into the stores. So we kind of set a framework, and the framework was that it has to be friend to friend, it has to be viral, and really have an intuitive way to actually be viral. It has to be engaging from a giver point of view and from a receiver point of view. And then it has to have a high frequency, which means that it's not something that you download to your phone and it's one of those 99 out of 100 apps that you never use. It has to be something that you engage you, if not on a daily basis, at least a couple of times per week. And based on that, we kind of looked at gift carding. And, gifting is, of course, a very interesting space, and actually is a very big part of what consumer retail is all about. And when we looked at how big gift carding was in the US, it's a $100 billion business in the US, been growing at double digits over the last 10, 15 years. And I was kind of shocked, $100 billion business in gift carding, that's actually 3 times bigger than online marketing. Online marketing in the US is roughly $33 billion. So if you're looking at what Google is actually doing, they are part of a $33 billion market in the US, and here suddenly we look at something which is a subset of something within retail, it's $100 billion. So it kind of shows how big things are when you're looking at consumer retailing, which is a $4,000 billion market in the US. So we kind of said, okay, how can we make gift cards digital? And when we make them digital, how can we make them social? And when we do them social, how can we make them mobile and have mobile first as a strategy? And there, the whole idea came about to actually make sure that we actually tie together the smartphone platform and the Facebook graph into an app in your pocket that actually based on open graph data and of course birthdays and so forth, reminds you about how to give birthday gifts. And of course, when you do birthday gifting with Wrapp, you can actually send those gifts for other purposes as well. And that's exactly what we're seeing and what happened. So it was a very interesting way to turn gift carding, because the way we do it is we create free gift cards for the retailers that can target free gift cards to the demographic they would like to drive into the stores. We turn gift carding into a sales acquisition tool, which is not diluting their brand and is not talking about discounting, which is exactly the opposite of course, what Groupon and other methods are doing.
So the way that works is, and the way that it's performance-based is that as a retailer, you only pay Wrapp something when one of those gift cards is actually redeemed in your store, meaning you don't only get a customer into your store, you actually get a customer into your store who buys something and comes up to your cashier and pays for it, and that's when we charge something. So we didn't have a lot of vacation last summer. We spent it inside in a small office on Dublinsgatan, coding what was going to become Wrapp. And we launched it as a very small trial in Sweden back in September. None of us had actually built a Facebook application before, so that was kind of a learning experience for us. 48 hours after launching, we were shut down on Facebook. We got this automated email that our application had been shut down because of spam reports. And it was going to get back up again in 5 days. We kind of tried to activate all the contacts we had within Facebook to see if there was anything to do, because we had just launched, and we were kind of panicking and like, are we going to be shut down now? Ended up taking so much time within the black box of what is Facebook to get something to happen that we actually got back on after the 5 days, and we had done adjustments. So kind of key learnings if you're going to do an app on Facebook. One, don't use the same application for development that you're going to launch with, because then you'll have done a lot of test posts on your own timelines and walls, and you will have probably removed them because you're full of junk, which means you'll start with a 100% kind of message removal ratio, which will trigger the spam filter. So yeah, it's kind of good to know.
So I think, you know, when we did this and very early on, we had two guys that we really would like to engage in this company as investors. And the way we did that was that, of course, as I mentioned, you know, we actually reached out and had the opportunity to have those workshops with Reed and get him excited about what we were kind of forming as a business idea and so forth. And while we were in kind of stealth mode building this, I invited Niklas Sennström, who was, you know, to come and meet the team and have a sneak preview of what we're doing. And both of these guys got very, very excited about the opportunity, the size of the market, our ambition to go global from day one, and really fulfilling things that are very, very important from an investor perspective. You know, that is a massive global market. The product has built-in virality. It has built-in high frequency, which means that people are actually revisiting the app. So in theory, everything looked very, very interesting from an investor point of view. And of course, we got increasingly excited as well with the kind of invention that we actually came up with, you know, to actually turn the $100 billion gift card market in the US to become, you know, a very, very smart sales acquisition tool for retailers, and therefore having them fuel, you know, the whole gift card market with free gift cards to drive sales into their stores. So we're actually not going in like Rebtel or Skype, as an example, to disrupt the market and shrink it. We actually went in and actually starting to disrupt the gift card market of $100 billion and grow it. Because suddenly, you know, gift card becomes part of the kind of discount budget that actually retailer has, or what it is actually having slightly lower margins on their product than the list price they have, and the marketing budget. So if you put the marketing budget of $300 billion plus the $100 billion gift card market, and actually the roughly $800 to $1,000 billion lower margins that retailer has from list price to actual price based on different methods to drive traffic and pay for that, that's actually the buckets that we were kind of addressing just from a US market perspective. And of course, when you talk about those numbers and you talk about something that leveraging two mega trends right now, social, smartphone, mobile, and of course solving a problem for not only the brick and mortar markets, but actually for all commerce, because Wrapp works, of course, for e-commerce, multi-channel, and only brick and mortars. You can get these kind of guys excited about something, and that was what we were able to get. So we were able to close a Series A round with, and actually get both Niklas Sennström and Reid Hoffman engaged as board members in the company, which is fantastic, because that was a two persons that we would like to add into our board to actually guide us in terms of product and actually scaling a consumer service.
And also building a global company, which both of them have done very successfully.
Fairly successfully.
Right. So this is what it looked like. We did this infographic. The numbers have changed, grown, of course, since then. But this is what it looked like after the first 4 months in Sweden. And this kind of probably tells you a little bit around what's going on here. So if we start somewhere in the middle, on the green line, you can see that at that point 1 million gift cards had been sent, and those gift cards had been interacted with on Facebook 15 million times among those 8 million people who are kind of possible recipients of Wrapp gift cards, meaning the unique friends of people who are Wrapp users, which at that point was 150,000. And those 150,000 had redeemed together 100,000 gift cards in Swedish stores. So it's 100,000 possibly new customers that we have created for those retailers.
Yeah. So I think the interesting thing what this showed is that Wrapp is a viral product. It has a fairly high engagement level from the users. So in the number of gift cards being sent. And the data from the US is that paid gift cards in the US, which is the most mature gift card market, is that adults are buying and giving away 5 gift cards per year. And that actually equals the $100 billion market. What we've seen with Wrapp so far is that average person using Wrapp is giving away 1 gift card per week, which is actually 10 times more than what the ordinary standard non-disrupted gift card market was in terms of engagement and how many cards people are giving away. And that's actually the most mature market compared to data from Sweden, which is not a very mature gift card market. So all these data kind of really said to us, okay, fine, it works. Let's focus on the big markets. And that's what we're doing right now, of course, getting closer to our US launch. So with that data, we said, okay, now it's time to expand Wrapp and actually go into multiple markets based on the first data we have been able to receive in Sweden. And now we have launched in the UK and Norway. And the focus now is, of course, on...
Well, the rest of the world. US, as Hjalmar has been stressing, our most important market. We've always, as a company, looked at it as our home market. We know that we will have to become and want to become an increasingly American company, even though we started out in Stockholm, we're based in Stockholm. We're setting up, we have an office in New York now, which you can see on the right-hand side, a growing team over there, but we're also looking into a bunch of other markets. So all of these color places are countries where we have feet on the ground, people who are out there and actively selling and promoting Wrapp. So this is, like it's been said a couple of times today, it's been said many times before in other like startup conferences that kind of one of the benefits of starting a company in a small country like Sweden is that you know that you have to go global from day one. That's always been our intention as well. This is a product which doesn't, you need scale for it to make sense, and that scale you get by going into all of these huge markets above and beyond our small country up in Northern Europe.
And then I think what we've been able to do, of course, is to use the data from the Swedish market. But from day one, we never called Sweden a home market. We have never done anything in Swedish. We actually started off doing even the messages in English, which we actually then had to kind of change, the postings and so forth in the language that people are actually interacting in. But we always had US as our perceived home market and the market that we need to crack. And that's where we have our main focus right now to launch that market with prominent retailers. I mean, working very hard on that from day one when we actually we launched Sweden. And that's the reason why, as an example, Reid Hoffman and our US investors are very important in the company. So I think, if you're looking and coming back to kind of the theme of this presentation is that both Andrea and I has been involved in startups before. I mean, I started my first mobile internet-related startup in '94, the same year Netscape came out. That was a bit early. But we're able to build that company up. And so much things have changed. I mean, today, the benefits of doing a startup today compared to '95 is that you have so much more building blocks available out there in terms of open source, clouding, payment methods, tapping into the social graph from Facebook to actually reach consumers, etc., etc. However, I think the big challenge is that customer acquisition cost and clutter and just the noise out there and the number of competitors are increasing, which means you don't have the luxury to sit and build things for years and then launch it for first in Sweden and then maybe just Scandinavia for half a decade, and then when you feel mature to actually take the next step. I think when you build things today, and if it has a global potential, you need to unleash that global potential as quick as possible. And I think, even though people are looking at Wrapp and say, hey guys, you're not even a year old and you already now have feet on the streets in 15 countries and you have, launched it in 3 and you're rolling it out very quickly and you raised a fairly decent Series A. I think both Andreas and I think we're growing too slow. We should have gone quicker with this company, et cetera, et cetera. And we're already roughly 50 people in the company.
So can I come in with a question then? So Sweden apart, so why did you actually choose Norway and UK to be kind of your test markets? I mean, maybe Norway is obvious, but UK?
I mean, I think Norway is probably the least obvious one.
Okay, I'll take that back.
It's obvious because many of the retail partners we already have on board in Sweden are also active in Norway as well as Finland, which you will soon see us opening up. So that's kind of easy to move over. But UK is
because it's the biggest, most mature market in Europe, and it's English market. So I think for us, when it comes to UK, it was we had the language already in the app, and we felt that some of the US retailers are in the UK as well. But to be honest, I mean, we have been focusing much more on the US market from day one, and talking and interacting with the big retailers there.
So how important is not just the knowledge, but the networks of Hoffman and Sennström in terms of the global rollout?
I think it depends a little bit on what type of company you are. We are a company which we have a pretty complicated sales cycle, and we need to engage very big partners. So the biggest retailers in the world, they have tens of thousands of employees, tens of billions of dollars in revenue, and we need to get in on a very senior level. And to do that, of course, it helps to have people who are very connected and people who other people on that level will listen to.
Yeah. And I think when you're looking at Wrapp from a consumer perspective, we are working very hard to make it as simple as possible. But from a retailer perspective, of course, it's much more complicated in the sense that we are collecting data in a way that really helps them to feel confident that they can offer free.
Yeah.
And if they don't feel confident to offer free because they can't calculate that back as a customer acquisition cost, it's not going to be any free gift cards in there. And therefore, the algorithm and what we're working with on the backside, so to speak, are fairly complicated. So, and of course, to communicate this and actually get their trust to actually open up where they are actually giving away free gift cards is of course based on that they see us as a long-term serious strategic partner. And to be a long-term strategic partner with retailers with tens of billions of dollars of revenue in, let's say, 50 countries, you need to show that you are serious about what you're doing, that you have the right competence in the company, and the right backers behind that.
Right. Can I take a step back? Could I ask Johan Brenner to come up? I see we have a good spot here. Is he around still? Johan? Could you come up? I think we have a seat here for you. Because I kind of wanted to go back. So one of the things that we initially talked a little bit about was the difference in starting a company now in comparison to when you started Spotify or Rebtel, etc. So let's take the fact apart that you have a great track record and someone actually gave you a big bag of money to just experiment with. In terms of the climate, kind of, how is that different now from maybe your previous experiences?
Well, it depends. Well, climate is one thing. I think there's much more like activity around startups in general. People are excited. Just look at the full room here. There's a lot of people who are interested. But I'm a tech guy, product guy, so from my perspective, there's a couple of things which have changed. Since we started Spotify, since 10 years ago, and that's one thing is you have the cloud services, you have Amazon and the others, so you don't need to invest in hardware, you have no capex, you can get started very quickly, you don't need as many engineers on the operational side. All of that makes your go-to-market time much smaller. You have mobile platforms in place, primarily iOS and Android, which means that finally the mobile internet is really mainstream. It's something that everyone uses, everyone installs apps. Even 6-7 years ago, it was something which was technically possible, but it was so complicated and so unknown that no one except the like really early adopters, tech geeks, ever did it. Now everyone does it. And the third thing is, of course, that you have the social graph of Facebook to just build your own applications on top of. So, you know, immediately your social application will be full of content and exciting things for users to do. And I think these three things have made it much quicker, both to build, but also to launch and grow consumer web services.
Yeah. So Johan, can you comment? The bag of money.
Do you have a microphone?
Oh yes, sorry. I'm so sloppy. It should be on.
The bag of money. Well, I mean, we're extremely fortunate and honored to be working with a team like this. And I think, I mean, when Hjalmar and Andreas came to me and said, "We have this idea. It's not ready yet. Would you back us?" I mean, it's all about team for us. And one of the key things that we look upon in a team is, can they recruit great people? That's really, really important. And we saw that in them. And I've known Hjalmar for a long time, seeing him build up RebTel, enjoyed that ride. And so it's really important to be able to recruit people. And if the team can show that and a great idea, even if it's not really a product out there, we're prepared to bet on them. Then on terms of, I agree with the guys that, you know, you can, today with those platforms with the multiple $1 billion now connected in the world, it's so easy to start a startup. But when you look at Spotify versus Wrapp is so digital and is so fast spreading, and the barriers to entry new markets is very low. The only thing which is difficult, of course, is to get the retail connections. Then you need to move fast. In Spotify's case, the secret was the label contracts, and they are in every country. So there you can be a little bit slower if you figured out how to work with the labels. And that's what Spotify did. And so, of course, they waited for each market, refining their business model and being a little bit slower. So it depends a little bit on the business model and what you're doing.
So the money part, how is Creando kind of helping out now with?
Well, you know, the dirty little secret with what we do on the evil side is when we meet guys like Hjalmar and Andreas, that we almost only sit here and enjoy the ride. And don't tell that to anybody, because then they will spread. But we try to help with a lot of things. I mean, if it's in the closed markets with retail connections, recruiting, and so forth. But I think the most important thing what we try to help the entrepreneurs with is product market fit. And if you don't know what that means, it's like, are the dogs eating the dog shit? It means that, like, are the customer buying the product? Are they using the product? Because it's really the most important thing for any product you have. Are they really, is the team really focused on making sure the consumer or the enterprise is buying and using the product? So I think that's a more critical part. But then we try to sit down with the guys, help them. We are like a service institution for teams like these guys. So hopefully we can help them.
Excellent. So we're really running out of time. We'll do a few last questions, but we will do an extra 10 minutes so you guys know. So we won't finish at 4:30, but maybe 5.
I can probably add something to what Johan said. I mean, I had the luxury to work with Johan throughout the whole RebTel roller coaster ride, and RebTel is today roughly an $80 million run rate company, profitable and really mature in that sense. So for me, you know, when I'm looking for investors, I mean, I would like to look for investors that I know that I can work with and that are adding value. And having Johan on the board, you know, he did tremendous hard work for RebTel when it was tough. And I think that is the difference between, you know, the spray and pray investors who kind of get scared when things get tough, and compared to those who really are keen to support and help and really tweak things and being a very good support for the entrepreneurs. And Johan is that kind of investor.
Right.
So for me, you know, when we started Wrapp, it was actually Johan who convinced me, you know, to really do this as well and really put some money in there, since he really felt, you know, that there was an opportunity here. And of course, for me to work with Andreas and the team we were able to build together, you know, got me excited to do another kind of kick at the can again, even though I kind of said I'm not going to do it.
Yeah, someone said that you told your wife you would never start another company.
Yeah, that's right. But she kind of gave up on that one now. But to be honest, you know, I think, you know, it's so much fun to do this, and I really thrive in the chaos and the challenges of the first phase in a company. And I'm extremely proud about RebTel and where RebTel is, but I know that my strength is the first part when things are not going very smoothly. With Wrapp, I was super excited about the space, to work with Johan again and work with Reed and Niklas as investor and partners. Guys who've done it before that I know I can work with. And then, of course, working with the tech team and the other people joining Wrapp. So we have super fun at Wrapp. We have 1,000 challenges in front of us, and the way we kind of grow in the company right now is kind of mind-boggling and scary, I have to say. I have no clue how many employees we have right now because I've been in the US for a week. So.
Okay. So do we have one last question from the audience?
Yeah, we do.
Great.
So it's actually two wrapped into one.
Yep.
So what is the biggest problem when going global? And that one could relate to how do you deal with German rip-offs launching in India and China?
I think, first of all, I think probably the best, proof you can get for your business is that you get cloned, probably. I think, when it comes to cloning something like Wrapp, it's quite dangerous for a cloning company because we're so early in our evolvement or evolving the product right now. So we kind of smiling when we see them actually cloning our biggest bugs and actually pivoting in the wrong direction with what they're doing. And so when we're looking at them right now, it's actually a completely different service, what they're trying to do. And I think they completely miss the key elements what we are trying to solve, which we're kind of smiling at right now, especially when we know how much money they're throwing at something that we know not going to work. So in that sense, I think, and for us as a team, of course, it doesn't give us a luxury to kind of test and try and go a little bit slower. We need to grow faster. But it actually get our team together. I think, things that would be kind of internal issues have suddenly become no issues because everyone know that we have external threats and we need to move as a team forward very, very quickly. So, hopefully it's just going to make Wrapp be successful faster. And I'm going to enjoy looking them pivoting in the wrong direction as well.
My view is the team has become much, much better after some clones have come up. And I think we're going to see copying and cloning more than ever. It's going to be here.
Yeah.
And therefore, executing like these guys are doing globally is so important and doing the focus. And we can't bother with these clones. We can't talk about, we really have to focus on our own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, Andreas, you could probably talk about this in greater extent later over a beer here, but it's about your product roadmap and actually building a better product and evolving that product, and with a better product and work very closely with your partners, get their trust, and by getting their trust, you can actually get their feedback and working together with your big strategic partners, in our case, the biggest global retailers in the world. And actually, when you get the clone running around, selling your two earlier versions to the same customer, they realize how good you are. Yeah. So actually, it kind of helps them to take a decision, to work with us in that case, and work closely with us. So for us, I think it's all about product execution, sales and marketing execution, and then make sure that we are getting the strategic work relationships to work better and better and better. And when they work better and better, we get the circle going up, and then you get the momentum. And I think we are way ahead of them in terms of that.
I think a lot of people here are either you're doing your own companies or you eventually want to do your own companies. So it's kind of, I think, good to keep in mind that, one, it's kind of a proof that you're doing something interesting, that someone is copying you. That's one thing. But at the point when you get competition, whether it's another startup with an original but similar idea that starts kind of competing with you for the same business, or whether it's a German clone factory, or if it's like an established company that kind of pivots into your space or starts doing that as well, it does galvanize your team, which is good. I think what's important is that you remain focused on what is your roadmap, so you don't let others guide you, because then you'll probably spend resources on the wrong things. It's kind of positive and negative sides of it.
Thanks a lot. I want to thank the three of you for a very inspiring story and sharing these comments with us, and best of luck. So a warm round of applause.
Thank you.
So please, you are also the last ones out to take a book. Also you, Johan, who are here, should choose a book. And I think one of you should go for the biggie.